So the example of the pigeon, this is a story told in some detail by Lord Krishna. I'll just summarize it. There was Mr. Pigeon and Mrs. Pigeon. Their name is not given. They probably didn't have names. Pigeons, they're in the wild, and pigeons in the wild don't have names. If the domesticated pigeons may have names. There are not many domesticated pigeons these days. There used to be pigeon racing. In Hindi, that's called kabutarabaji. If you know that, kabutarabaji, keeping pigeons for racing. Mumbai mein hote abhi tak nahi. Finished. It used to be some kind of sport that people got some pleasure in. So they're wild pigeons. So we'll call them for the Mr. Pigeon and Mrs. Pigeon, and they loved each other. Mr. Pigeon and Mrs. Pigeon, they built a nice nest. Actually, pigeons, they don't build much of a nest. They just find some ledge or something and put a few sticks, and that's it. Anyway, for the sake of the story, we'll butter it up a bit. They built a nice nest, and then Mrs. Pigeon had her first pregnancy, and Mr. Pigeon would go out and bring all kinds of nice things, nuts and worms and all kinds of things for Mrs. Pigeon to eat as she got more and more pregnant, and they were in bliss. They were just loving each other like anything. And when the eggs popped out of Mrs. Pigeon's uterus, or whatever, her womb, then they became more blissful. And when the eggs hatched and the little pigeons were there, their happiness knew no bounds. What a beautiful love story. How nice. They're so much in love. Mr. Pigeon works hard to bring back nice food for Mrs. Pigeon. Then the eggs hatch and they have little chicks. And then Mr. Pigeon and Mrs. Pigeon, they work hard throughout the day, going out. They both go out to find all delicacies for the little chicks to eat, and their happiness reaches its limit. They couldn't imagine such happiness as coming back with some squirming worm in their mouth to drop in the beak of the chicks who are with their mouths up and squawking. And when the pigeons drop the food into the chick's mouth, they feel fully satisfied. So this goes on for some time, and the little chicks get a little bigger, so they get to the extent where they can flutter down to the ground and take little Wright brothers attempts at flying just a little bit up and then down again. They're just on the verge of becoming full-fledged pigeons when one day, when Mr. and Mrs. Pigeon are both away foraging for food, tragedy strikes. A hunter, cruel hunter, one of those nasty men, one of the human species, comes and sets his net and captures all the little baby pigeons in his net. What can be done? Mrs. Pigeon comes back. She's the next one who comes before Mr. Pigeon. And she, understanding what has happened, squawks around the net as if to plea with the hunter. But the hunter's thinking how to capture her, and he does also. So she is in the net, and all the baby pigeons are in the net. And the hunter knows very well if there are baby pigeons and there's a mother pigeon, there's got to be a father pigeon too. So he waits around, and the father pigeon comes back. He's flying back thinking, oh, how wonderful life is. My darling wife, my darling children, I'm bringing another worm for them to eat. God is good. Life is good. Everything's so wonderful. And then he comes back and sees that his wife and his children are all caught in the net. So he lands on the branch of the tree and starts thinking, what to do, what to do, what to do. He realizes he's hopeless. There's nothing he can do. The hunter is merciless and will not let his family members go. He's completely incapable of protecting them. So thinking like this, he thinks, what is the purpose of living on? My whole life was this family. So he swoons and allows himself to fall into the net, and the hunter, feeling very satisfied, takes them all home to his wife. Just like the pigeons were bringing worms for their children to eat, so the hunter has brought a family of pigeons for his family to eat. So the moral of the story that the Avatut teaches is, don't be excessively attached. Family life is there. It's part of human life. We can't be totally against family life. Every one of us were born due to the mating of a male and a female, which should be done in civilized society within family life. But don't be excessively attached. Understand that death is going to take us away.